All right, hey guys. So you are now watching a video that is going to go over adding and technically subtracting decimals when we are dealing with negative numbers. So we are combining a concept that you learn in sixth grade, how to deal with decimals when adding and subtracting, with a concept that we've now learned in seventh grade, which is how to deal with adding and subtracting negative and positive numbers. So you're also watching the video because based on your pretest, it was determined that you have enough knowledge already that this should hopefully be enough to help you understand this concept. However, if you're watching the video and you find that you are struggling, feel free to close the video, grab your notebook paper, and come join my group so that you can ask questions and hear it from me directly rather than hearing recorded me tell you the answers. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Based on your pretest, again, you guys understand how to add and subtract decimals when there are not negatives. But now we need to look at, can you combine that with negative numbers? So I am going to color code my notes. So if you guys are interested in color coding your notes, pause the video for a second, get out some coloring utensils, and then when you're ready, you can unpause and begin to color code with us. So step one, which should surprise nobody, because we are subtracting here, our first step is to KCC. So I come over to our problem and I KCC. Now, if at any point in this video, guys, I am moving too quickly for you, please pause it, write it down, and then move on. That's the nice part about the video, is that you don't have to worry about me moving too fast because you can choose the pace by pausing and then replaying as needed. Okay, step one is done, and it's something that you guys have done in the past. So step two, again, I'm going to pick a different color here. This is more sixth grade content here in step two. We know that when we're adding and subtracting decimals, we need to line up our decimal points this time. That's different than when we're multiplying. Line up decimals, and I'm going to use the term vertically. Vertical means up and down, so if you don't know what vertically means, then you should write up and down instead. And then we need to make a note here, because a lot of kids make this mistake. Not only do you line up your decimals vertically, but you need to make sure that your bigger absolute value goes on top. So the reason I use the term absolute value there is we're not going to take into consideration, is it negative or not? We're just looking at the digits here. Which one has the bigger absolute value? And that's the one that we're going to write on top. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So when I look at the positives and negatives, I see that I have 3.41 negatives and I have 5.2 positive. So the bigger absolute value there is going to be the positive. So I'm going to write 5.2 on top. And then I got to line up my decimal points. 3.41 is going to go on the bottom. You guys will notice that for now, I'm going to ignore my negative signs until the end. Okay, and then since I'm missing a digit on my top number, I'm going to go ahead and add a 0 here just to make my life easier. I'm going to put my equal sign. Okay, that's the end of step two. Grab a different color here. Again, pause if you need time to do that. Step three is where, again, we are going to go back to our seventh grade content. So we're kind of alternating at this point. So the reason I'm ignoring my negatives for now is because we need to determine, are we going to physically add these numbers, or do we have to secretly subtract them? Okay, so just a refresher, we determine if we add or secret subtract based on the signs of our numbers. So when I look at my numbers, I see that I have a negative, and once I KCC'd, I have a positive. So when my signs are different, that means that my counters would cancel out, which is another way of saying that I'm going to subtract some of my numbers. So this is going to become a subtraction sign. I'm going to actually circle secret subtract over here. And that's what we're going to do now. So we are going to secret subtract. I'm going to assume that you guys know how to borrow, so I'm not going to narrate this part, but if you need help subtracting here, do feel free to look at the video. Otherwise, just go ahead and subtract these numbers. Okay, if you need more time subtracting, go ahead and pause the video. I'm going to go ahead and move down or move on. Okay, so grab your next color here. Next step, we're actually going back to 7th or 6th grade. So we have to put our decimal point in our answer. And again, the process here is different than when we're multiplying. When we add, it's easier. You just bring your decimal point straight down. So bring decimal straight down. So I think that's what makes decimals so difficult sometimes, is there's such different rules for when you're adding and subtracting compared to when you're multiplying. So my decimal point comes straight down. So right now it's appearing as if my answer is 1.79. But hopefully you guys are yelling at me saying, no, we forgot something. But let's check it out. So let's grab a fifth color. I'm going to go orange. And we're going to go back to 7th grade. So we truly did alternate here. We went 7th, 6th, 7th, 6th, and now we're back to 7th. So our final question is positive or negative. Now I know when we multiply and divide, we answer that question first, but when we're subtracting and adding, it's a little bit easier to wait until the end. So here I'm going back to my problem. I see that I had about 3 negatives, and I had about 5 positives. So that means that my final answer is going to be positive, because again, if we visualize our counters, I'm going to have more positive counters than I do negative counters. So once they're done canceling, I'll have positive counters left over in the end. So our answer, I'm going to circle this here, is going to be positive. And then I'm going to even put a plus sign over here. Definitely not required, but since these are notes, I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to add a step 6, just because this is helpful to me when you guys are doing your work. Step 6, especially if the answer is negative, because a lot of you guys forget to write your answer back up with the negative sign. Let's go ahead and circle our final answer. Okay, so circling. I notice I've got my sign, I've got my decimal point, and let's just check to make sure if our answer makes sense. So 5 is close to 5. 5.2 is close to 5. 3.4, if we round it, rounds down to 3. 5 minus 3 is close to 2. And this number that we came to is relatively close to 2, which means our answer makes sense. All right, guys. That's how to add and subtract decimals when you are dealing with negatives. Feel free to rewatch this video as you go, and these notes should be next to you while you guys are completing your worksheet and doing your homework. Have a great day.